Hello there. Welcome to Speechcom Sparkle, our Learning English series. For the past sessions, we have been having grammatical lessons, and there have been so many requests for public speaking. Of course, the reason why we took some slices of phonology and grammar are because, well, to be able to become a very good public speaker, you must be confident and competent in phonology or enunciation, articulation, and of course, grammar. So, what happens in this session is I'll give you glimpses of our FCOM series, where public speaking is a vital part. As I told you, I have a complete communication series, which I call FCOM or effective communication. And the heart of that is public speaking. Introduction to public speaking. Of course, I will not be able to take everything about public speaking in one session, but at least you have an overview of what really is public speaking. From the very traditional interpretation of public speaking, this field of study or this field of communication arts had grown into larger perspectives. First of all, I would like to talk to you about the dimensions of effective communication. It starts with, as you can see, with the self. It is so important that you communicate with yourself. If you don't know yourself and you cannot come to terms with yourself, you will not able to move forward. Of course, you're not going to communicate loudly, but when you go into thinking, finding out what's in your mind, what's in your heart, you are actually having your own self communication. Then you expand a little bit, the so-called dyadic encounter, one-on-one, or in professional parlance, the interview. Well, one-on-one or dyadic encounter could be an ordinary dialogue, an ordinary conversation, but in the business world, it is what you call the art of interview, where so much depends to be able to get the job. And then again, we grow a little bit more, and you have the so-called small group dynamics or small group interactions, where you are interacting with 3 or 4 different people on a common theme, on a common vision. More or less, each member knows exactly one another, and you know exactly what you're going to talk about. The importance of this is it is an art of group dynamics. To be able to speak, listen to the other members of the group, and interact. But then, we don't stop in the small group discussion. We have what you call intergroup. Just like in a business company, you have the accounting department, the financing department, the executive department. In the school, you have different colleges of arts and sciences, commerce, teachers college, and the other non-academic sectors of the community. And generally, you have general meetings, you have general planning sessions. And so there is a need for the so-called intergroup communication dynamics, where you learn how to listen and interact with other parts of the circle. Maybe you are 3 or 4 different groups, but it's very important that you are able to communicate with them. And then the last and the most challenging, and what we are going to take up now, is the so-called public communication or the art of public speaking. Very interesting. So many causes were won on stage through public speaking. But then, well, before you only think of public speaking on being on stage, speaking there with a microphone and probably lecturing. Nowadays, public speaking is more than that. You can go online, you can have a seminar, and you have different public speakers or public communicators. Then, it is very important that you know what are the different dimensions of effective communication. Let me go back to our diagram. We said the self, the one-on-one, the group, the intergroup, and public speaking. Okay, let's go to the art of public speaking. Okay, a very limited notion is you go up on stage and you talk, but it's not enough. Where do not associate it with campaigns where you go up and you speak and you talk about your platform, or in the past when you had Patrick Henry and the rest speaking for democracy, for liberty. This time it's different. There are many areas of public communication, but there are three important parts of public speaking. First, look at your diagram. The speaker. Who is the speaker? The speaker is the communicator. You are also the transmitter. You are the leader. You are the manager of the communication exercise. And most of all, you are the agent of change. You just don't speak for nothing. You just don't speak to display your expertise with the use of the microphone or speaking, but you are supposed to be having in yourself a certain principle, a certain conviction, and the methodology to be able to share that. So that's what you call, you are actually an agent of change. Okay, so that's the speaker. And then you need a speech. No matter how good a speaker you are, if you have a lousy, irrelevant speech or a long, boring speech, well, nobody would listen to you. Even in the church, if the sermons are very long and they become very redundant, you hope that the credo will already come because the priest is speaking too long. But now there are limitations. I think the archbishop has limited every priest saying mass of at least 10 to 15 minutes of homily. But let's go back to more relevant topics of speech. What can you talk about? Materials of change. You can promote a product. You can speak out your conviction, belief. You can speak to promote a certain product. Or as I said a while ago, marketing. You can speak just to interact with a group about values, about lessons, about politics, about literature. But it's very important that your speech is not too long and boring. It should be focused. These materials of change should incite the passion to listen to your ideas and go to the next portion. How important will be the audience? Well, they are supposed to be your recipients of change. If you're only thinking of yourself on stage just to demonstrate your diction and your expertise in rhetorics, that's nothing. You may have a very good speech, but then it does not touch the mind and the hearts of the audience who are supposed to be your change recipients. Who are your audience? People. All the types and levels of people. All social strata. They are your receivers. Could be your co-workers. Could be your peers. In short, these three, I would say triple C. Huh? The competence and confidence of the speaker, that's double C. And then you have the change topic, the so-called competence in being able to put a very good subject matter, and you have the audience who are supposed to be your change receivers and recipients who will actually come up with a chain reaction to be able to carry on the ideas that you shared with them. So back to the art of public speaking. What are the different types of public speaking? I'll just give you the basic types. First is the reading from the manuscript, which means that you have a material and you are reading, enunciating, and making the audience understand what you are reading. That is the first. The second is the so-called memorized speech, where you memorize a certain piece. This is good for training, declamation, oratorical contests. and you memorize word for word, and you put gestures, and you enunciate every phrase and every sentence, and it's always an appeal to the mind, an appeal to action. Memorize speech. What will be interesting will be the last two, the extemporaneous method, where you're given a topic, you're given a time limit to think of the topic, prepare, and then share your insights. No reading, no memorization, extemporaneous. And I think the most compelling will be the impromptu. No preparation, on the spot. You're asked to make a comment on a certain topic, on a certain belief, on a certain issue. So those are the methods of public speaking. Memorize speech, reading from the manuscript, extemporaneous, and impromptu. On top of all this will be your mechanics now of delivery. You may have a very good thought or opinion. You may be very accurate in your data, but then in public speaking, you'll have to be very selective on the words that you choose, your strategy to be able, as I said a while ago, to get into your chance recipients. You're on stage. Sometimes you have a microphone, sometimes you have an imagined microphone, and from the traditional, you usually have the rostrum and the microphone attached to the rostrum, or probably you're holding the microphone. What is important is when you're on the rostrum and you are ready to speak, adjust the microphone and see to it that the microphone is really direct to your mouth. Not too close and not too far. And don't keep on holding. Don't keep on touching the microphone. So if you're holding it without a platform, without a rostrum, the same mechanics will follow. So that's very important, the use of the microphone. And you're on stage, you have a rostrum, you can put your manuscript on the platform. But there are times that you may have a PowerPoint and you have a microphone, maybe you are explaining every part of your PowerPoint, but still, you don't lose contact with the audience because they might only be looking at your PowerPoint and they don't know anymore how you look and how you deliver. So it's a synchronization of how you explain your PowerPoint, especially if it's a seminar. So those are really very, very important. The delivery, the piece, and the speaker should really be having what you call a communication teamwork. Now, in all of these things, the voice is very important. Aside from the face, that's why I always ask, do you have a face which communicates? Your eyes, your nose, your lips, that before you speak, they look at you and you are already communicating. Your countenance, friendly, not scared, good eye contact that could spread from left to right to the middle portion of the audience, and a very pleasant face. Okay, and then next is your voice, the voice power, voice projection. Can you imagine? You may not look very beautiful. As Tom Jones said, you don't have to be beautiful to turn me on. You may be small but terrible. You may not be 5'5" or 5'6", maybe you're only 4'11", but the moment you speak, wow! The very solid voice power is there. And you can always develop this at home when you practice projection. Project your voice. Projection from your diaphragm. Moving to your, going through your air column. Passing through the trachea, through your throat, and through your mouth. Open your mouth. Even if you don't look good with an open mouth, then go right ahead. Because what is important is you will have to be understood. Whether it's Tagalog, Binisaya, British, or American English, every word should be clear and it should come from your mind and your heart. Targets of any form of communication too. Conviction, you make people believe what you believe in, and persuasion, you make them act the way you want them to do or to act. Let me give you an example of an exercise projecting your voice power. And I'm sitting down. It's better if you're standing. And I will be doing a twofold demonstration of reading from the manuscript. Here I am, and projecting my voice power. There are times when you're reading from the manuscript, you bend down and we don't see your face anymore. So I'm going to put on my pair of eyeglasses to be sure that I will not miss a word. And now I have an exercise in voice power reading from the manuscript. If you're a member of the human race, chances are that one of these days you'll be giving a speech. A speech. Maybe you have never given a speech. Maybe you're terrified. But you do realize it's possible to learn to stand before a group and speak to them. Maybe you are an experienced speaker, a salesperson, manager, supervisor, or board member. But it's been a while since you have studied public speaking. Now a refresher course might help, and that's what we are doing now. Whoever you are, whatever your experience, you can learn how to overcome stage fright and achieve self-confidence. All you need is practice, practice, and practice. And most of all, believe in yourself. For a start, let us have voice power. It is an attention getter. It creates impact and accentuates your personality. Let thy speech be better than silence, or be silent. There you are. I know you can do that. So I read from the manuscript. I was not boring. I was initiating. I was giving feeling to every sentence I was reading. I still have audience contact because I look at them and I look at my manuscript. I can use gestures. But when you do reading from the manuscript, practice at home. Read the manuscript many times before you go up the stage so that you get the meaning of the manuscript, and if you get lost, you know exactly where your eyes should drop to be able to find which sentence you stop and where you would pick up the next sentence. Well, I'm sure you can do that. Voice power, projection, coming from the diaphragm. You don't say ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen. It's everything in you. It's, how do you call that? A synergy of your parts of speech mechanism, from the diaphragm to the air column, to the throat, to the mouth, to the teeth, and then your facial expression. Ladies and gentlemen, I have been to the mountaintop and I have a dream. Wow, public speaking is very interesting. I don't want to give you so much in a day's lesson, but then you just had a preview of the essentials of public speaking. More next meeting. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell.